The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, for an effortless finish to your day. New Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
This is News Talk.
You're welcome along. Wednesday evening's Off the Ball. It's Champions League evening, and not just any old Champions League evening, which means Kenny Cunningham has been dragged kicking and screaming into studio. All eyes on the Bernabeu. We have Champions Cup quarter-final weekend up for discussion on Wednesday Night Rugby. Jerry Thornley and Fiona Hayes on the way after 8 o'clock. And then Ken Doherty's dropping by to reflect on 7th heaven for Ronnie O'Sullivan, now level with Stephen Hendry, and according to O'Sullivan himself, very much gunning for world title number 8 to be out on his own already next year. 53106, the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Kenny Cunningham, hello.
Evening, Joe.
You said to us a couple of weeks back, I'm only coming in for the big ones.
The big egos, not you.
And here you are. This should be very good. We have Richie McCormack as well. Richie, you're there. Hello.
Evening, gents. How are you?
Very well. I was just reading out a news report which caught my eye to Kenny there, Rich. And catch my eye, it did. Steve Hodge. Bloody Steve Hodge. Nottingham Forest hero, Steve Hodge. I'm reading here from Nottinghamshire Live, Kenny. I'm sure you're an avid reader. So, Nottingham Forest, Steve Hodge has just sold his match-worn Diego Maradona Hand of God shirt for over £7 million sterling at auction. Forest midfielder Hodge swapped shirts with Maradona after the 1986 World Cup quarter-final clash between England and Argentina in Mexico and has owned it ever since, although the item has spent the last 20 years on loan at the National Football Museum in Manchester. It wasn't at Shea Hodge. He was, smarter than that. So it seems they were expecting maybe 4 million, which was an initial offer, and things spiraled very quickly. Indeed, there was a report as well that a delegation from Argentine football flew over begging for the shirt. We've a Diego Maradona Museum in Buenos Aires. What can we do to get this shirt? Hodge, not in so many words, said, "Have you got 7 million quid?" This is unbelievable.
Have you heard the row about it, though?
Go on.
Diego's family, when this story first appeared that the shirt was going to auction, they said that actually, no, that jersey, while it was Maradona's and he did wear it in the game, it wasn't actually the one he wore while scoring both the Hand of God and that fantastic second goal against England in the quarterfinals, because he changed jerseys, according to the family, at half-time. So the one that Hodge had was the one that Maradona apparently had worn throughout the first half, but not while he scored both of those brilliant 2 goals in the second. Okay. So they were claiming that it was losing something of its value because it wasn't on the man's shoulders when he
hold
did
on,
those
I
two pieces.
don't get this. Sorry, Rich. So he got the one he was wearing in the first half. So did he get it at half time?
I don't think so. I think he just reefed it out of his bag and said, "Here you go. This is my jersey I was wearing." Okay. And Hodge didn't think anything of it.
I wouldn't mind only who flicked the ball onto the Hand of God. Hodge.
Was he shadowed him there the last 10 minutes of the game, Hodge? Have we got any footage of the game where he was literally looking up at the clock and thinking, "Oh, I need to get in contact with this as soon as the whistle goes"? I mean, I'm all over him like a rash.
You would do.
Did you ever do that, Kenny? Tony Yeboah?
I never did, but I know players who have done against some high caliber opposition. Yeah, I do remember clocking a few of the lads thinking, "Oh, come on, lads, yeah." You got right backs in the left wing position. 30 seconds to go, normal time.
I feel like Back to the Future style, future Steve Hodge went back in time and said to young Steve Hodge, "Get that jersey. 7 million big ones." This is the most lucrative jersey swapping of all time. I think this is now the most expensive piece of memorabilia of all time.
Rich, if you'd have said have an estimate that jersey's gone, you would be talking in the millions, wouldn't you? I probably would have guessed 3-4 million, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially since Maradona's no longer with us. I think that the fact that he's gone has only, it's like any great artist. You see their prices skyrocketing as soon as they're in the grave. Maradona's no different. There's anything attached to him now because it's so rare and he's not with us anymore. Yeah. So any tangible artifact you have towards him is going to just skyrocket in price.
Funny you should say that, Rich. I'm just, John, prepared to leave this little woolly hat here. If you want to leave on the top shelf there and just let it brew for about 20, 30 years, who knows?
The things that had seen.
I suspect we've asked you about this before, so we won't labour the point. But what is your most prized jersey that you have? Who's your best?
I wouldn't. I've never thought about it, to be honest.
You get to mark all the best players.
Attempt. attempted to. No, I've never. I've got my jerseys. They're all just packed up in a laundry bag. But I've never really thought about it, to be honest. Some nice. I might have said to you before, I opened it up the last couple of years for the first time in a long time.
You did say that, yeah.
Yeah, just the different colours and the different, was visually was actually nice just to have a look at them. Kind of surprised me a bit when I opened it up, you know what I mean? But no, I don't really think in those terms. I couldn't really. The jerseys are there, but my caps are on top actually. So if I had to pick one thing out, there's a few caps there, Rich. We used to get them once every year, as opposed to
caps,
which I think initially we one or two of the lads were feeling a bit cheated, not getting maybe the chaps every year. But I think actually, looking back on a retrospective, I think it's actually a good thing. In some respects, you kind of cherish them a little bit more, only having the one every year. But we were lucky to get those of us kind of lucky enough to get like to the 50 caps. We got a special it was like a gold cap. Usually they're the green, aren't they? That kind of velvety green, beautiful with the gold tassel. But this one was all the opposite almost. Was like a gold cap kind of standalone. It's beautiful. That was just sitting on top. Nice. So that more than anything else kind of grabbed my attention. But no, it wouldn't be. Yeah, it wouldn't get overly. Wouldn't get overly sentimental on the jerseys. Nice to have, I suppose, and whatever. But
look, I'll put this a different way. Is there anything we can auction off here?
with the purpose of what? Employing a cleaner to clean the studio once or twice. That's about all you'd make.
How about this? Give us the box. Leave me and Richie on eBay. We'll try work our magic. We'll split it 3 ways. Yeah. You've nothing lost there.
No, I suppose I wouldn't be different to anybody else. I'd be very reluctant to. But Richie's right about the jerseys. Funny enough, Rich, because when you came in to play the games, there'd be 2 jerseys out, generally a long sleeve and a short sleeve. And during the course of the game, a few of the lads, you'd kind of swap over. Obviously, conditions, lashing rain. You put a second one on, like, you know what I mean, and things like that. So that did happen. You'd probably get your way through maybe a couple of jerseys, even if it was hot. You'd sweat through one or whatever. So you would get through a couple. So you would have a couple maybe after the game. And if somebody obviously asked you, somebody would say, look, a bit like yourself, Joe, best of intentions, charity or whatever, there'd be a jersey to give away and maybe one to keep yourself. So we're lucky in that respect. Maybe you could give one away, but also keep a jersey as well. So, that considered, I'd probably still have quite a few of them.
Yeah, nice. Well, have a little look through. Tell me if you see like a Ronaldo in there or an Henri,
Well, the lads never swapped their jerseys, the Brazilian lads, did they? Because that was one of the games when the lads were shuffling all over the pitch the last minute. But I did notice straight after the game the lads were getting custard pies all over the pitch off the Brazilian players. Clearly, they had that big Nike agreement at the time, Rich. And I don't know whether there's some kind of agreement in terms of the jerseys were kept and auctioned or given or whatever. But there was like flat refusals, like lads were getting
Really? You weren't like, this Ireland number 5, is it obviously worth your Brazil number 10? Come on.
No, I read the script. I didn't embarrass myself. I didn't embarrass myself by even walking up to anybody.
Tom in Sutton, did you keep your captain's armband from the first day you captained Ireland, Kenny?
No, I don't. No, I wouldn't have thought so. To be honest, Joe, those don't know if you again, Rich, those armbands, they would a little, they wouldn't have been kind of your Real Madrid old school type. The lads come and they
half the time.
Strapping around the, you know what I mean? They really kind of standard. These things were just like literally just like elastic, bang.
Didn't have a big C on it. No, it was just a band.
No.
Okay.
No, so I wouldn't have. Yeah, that type of thing. I wouldn't have been. Yeah, I wouldn't have kept those. Just your jersey, I suppose, and the caps. Really, that'd be it.
Fair enough. Was it a thing? Would you swap after every Premier League game?
Premier League game? Yeah. I never remember.
No.
Never remember swapping a jersey after a Premier League game. No, wouldn't even it.
And would the club have said, stop swapping if somebody was? It's costing us
I probably played for a few clubs. Yeah, that would have been a consideration. But no, obviously they get the money in the modern game. But no, it didn't happen. It happens a lot more now, which obviously it's a bit cringe to watch. To be honest with you, I can understand to a point. Maybe after the game, the tunnel are plenty of time in the dressing rooms after the game. Yeah. Lads usually hang around, but to swap jerseys visually, I think it looks dreadful, particularly half time coming off the pitch. I mean, as a manager, I couldn't stand for like players.
Yeah.
It just gives off the wrong kind of the message in terms of the mindset.
Was it a thing in football where after a game you would pop in, maybe not you necessarily, but people would be in and out of each other's dressing rooms. You know, like various teams would pop in for a chat. You'd have lads in and out. You'd see someone come in from the other team for a chat with someone else. It was all.
I thought you were building up to something here, Joe. I thought you were setting a trap for me when I popped into the Chelsea dressing room once in the last stages of my career. But
did you?
No, but
hang on,
that's different. No.
For a word, who weren't you happy with?
No, I'm going to move it on. But no, I don't remember that.
Wasn't a thing.
No, just like I said, maybe 3/4 an hour after the players had showered, getting dressed, people are leaving, maybe getting next player or something, walk into the dressing room, that type of thing, which was fair enough. But I wouldn't know at the moment. But it seems to be that the game's changed, isn't it? It's different now, isn't it?
Mick, could you Google what happened? Some controversial Kenny Cunningham. Just Google controversy Cunningham, Chelsea, Stamford Bridge. Don't worry, we'll circle back to it.
Disappointed you there, Joe. You missed an opportunity.
But not surprised.
Unlike you.
The Newsround is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Richie, the one thing we were all checking was, has Pep Guardiola overcomplicated things?
He hasn't really, no. It's all about the fullbacks for him today. They're the only changes from that first leg last week, which was a 4-3 victory, of course, for Manchester City over Real Madrid in the first leg of their Champions League semi-final. So Liverpool going to discover their final opponents tonight. City taking that lead to the Bernabeu. Real Madrid, the team for them first, one major change at the back, which sees Nacho come into the back four in place of David Alaba. So their team lines up with Thibaut Courtois in goal, a back four of Dani Carvajal, Eder Militao, Nacho and Ferland Mendy. In midfield, it's the returning Casemiro. He's alongside Toni Kroos and Luka Modric. Federico Valverde goes up into the front three in place of Rodrigo, and he's in that front three alongside Vinicius Jr. and Karim Benzema. For City, Ederson starts in goal. Kyle Walker back in the side at right back. The defensive partnership remains the same. That's Ruben Dias and Aymeric Laporte. But Joao Cancelo comes in on the left in place of Alexander Zinchenko. In midfield then, we've got an unchanged trio of Rodri, Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. Riyad Mahrez, Phil Foden and Gabriel Jesus are up top, and kickoff in the Spanish capital is at 8.
I mean, this is just so beautifully poised. Massive fill-up for City is that Walker's back. That was the problem area the last day out. And I don't know what Madrid are going to do about the midfield situation, but certainly the last day, Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, Mahrez versus Toni Kroos, Luka Modric. Was Casemiro in there?
No.
That's the difference.
That's the difference, yeah. Well, I thought he made a mistake. Ancelotti, I'm a huge fan of Ancelotti, but I was really surprised Camavinga didn't play in the first leg. Ahead of Casemiro, he dropped Kroos in there and brought Valverde into like a narrow three. I just felt that lad, from what I've seen of him play, he hasn't played regularly at Real Madrid, but he's a real talent, this kid. He's a high energy player, box to box. He's got a bit of everything.
Yeah. He's only 19, isn't he?
Yeah, he's only 19. Yeah, he's been playing at a young age at Rennes, wasn't he? I think even Klopp was linked with him in the last year, but they didn't jump, and I think might prove to be a mistake. He looked to be a top class player. Anyway,
not to disagree with your point, he absolutely, when the foul happened and Bernardo Silva was on the ball, thought, oh well, that's a free.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but a little bit of lack of experience in that respect. But I just thought his kind of physicality and his energy was bad for the reasons that you're saying.
Yeah.
Toni Kroos in that holding midfield position, where against a team like Manchester, how good they are in that central midfield area, how forward thinking, and De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva, to have Toni Kroos in there is not really a naturally defence minded player. He's not the quickest over the ground. I thought it was a gamble that didn't pay off for them.
He spent most of his time, Kroos, with De Bruyne. Modric was hanging around Rodri a good bit. So it was Kroos versus De Bruyne. Obviously there was interplay and switching.
De Bruyne doesn't make it easy. He's clever, doesn't he? Starts drifting onto the wings. If you're a number 6, you don't want to be getting drawn out into those wide areas. And apart from that, I just don't feel as if he's got that defensive mindset. You got to understand the position. You got to get to read situations well, sense danger, drop in between your centre halves, go and press the ball, drop off, cover space, all those basics things which naturally holding centre midfielders can see it. They've been brought up, they've been coached. Kroos is never that. He can play from deep, but in possession he's at his best from a deep line midfield position where he can get on the ball and dictate long range of pass and keep the ball moving. But yeah, you just feel as if he wants to play at his own pace these days, Kroos, doesn't he? And when you see quicken the ball, get their legs running, get players ahead of the ball, it's all a bit of a tiz around them. So yeah, they certainly had the advantage seat in that area of the pitch. But it's interesting the changes there. City at full back, that's really important, because they had a real problem at right back again in the first leg, and I actually thought they got out with jail a bit. Vinicius, who I like, a bit of a up and down. I wasn't overly impressed with him. He had a great goal on the evening, but apart from that, he wasn't at his best. And his combination play with Benzema, their link-up play has been absolutely huge for Real Madrid, particularly in the latter stages of the competition. So they got away with one there. Now Cancelo's back in tonight, and Walker in particular for me is absolutely key, because his kind of speed, his recovery speed against Vinicius is going to be important. But the biggest change for me in both teams, Nacho That's an absolute hammer blow for Real Madrid.
Alaba out.
Oh, Alaba out, but this fella coming in, this lad, you just don't know what you're going to get. Thought he was all over the place against, I think it was the game against Chelsea at the Bernabeu. He's just like a little bit kind of headless chicken, just, tunnel vision, blinkered approach, chasing all over the place, getting dragged out of position easily. And Guardiola will be looking at thinking, right, we can really affect him. We can drag him into midfield, create spaces in behind, get our wingers driving on the inside. He'll really send some real opportunities in and around, and that's you at centre half tonight, providing he doesn't change things. And that was the good thing about the first leg. I would have been critical of Guardiola previously, Rich, about just overcomplicating it in terms of his front three. I remember Jesus playing in a big game at the Bernabeu a few years ago, and everybody suspecting what he's going to play at number 9. He played him left of a 3 on the evening. Where the first leg, I thought he got it perfectly right. Play Jesus down the middle. He's your natural centre forward. Play him in his right position. Play your best right-sided player for me is Mahrez, and Phil Foden, who's outstanding in a number of positions, but he's very comfortable on his left side, left of a 3. So for me, the balance was absolutely perfect, and those front 3 positions, De Bruyne and De Silva as well. That bit of a defensive presence in Rodri, I wouldn't be as great as fan in terms of the defensive qualities, but you can trust him, generally speaking, to sit there and hold the centre of the pitch. So I thought the balance was perfect, and he didn't, it's a bit of a cliche, but for me, he didn't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Guardiola kept it simple, and they looked better as a result.
It's going to be a fun match. Sounds briefly like everything's pointing towards Man City, except this is Real Madrid.
Yeah, well, I put it, clearly I put it in, I lean towards City now, like I said, just with that Nacho coming in the centre half, I think would be really significant. So, yeah, I give City distinct advantage now.
Rich, Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah, the Liverpool manager says the halftime introduction of Luis Diaz was not the sole reason for their overcoming Villarreal last night. First half goals from Boulaye Dia and Francis Coquelin put the hosts 2-0 up on the night and levelled the tie, but Liverpool flew out of the traps in the second half with Fabinho, Diaz and Sadio Mane all scoring to secure a 5-2 aggregate win. And Klopp was asked about his halftime team talk last night.
So there were so many problems. It's not if I can explain it now, but you saw them as well, and you saw the second half. So, but the difference was what I was talking about in halftime. It was pretty much 1-1. What we said in halftime, that we have just to start doing what we wanted to do in the first place, and don't play in their cards, because they play man marking and were really on us. And in that moment, maybe you remember the first pass through the half space, Naby Keita could turn, then Sadio, if they passed the ball there, all of a sudden they had the problems we had in the first half. So we turned and we were running with 4 or 5 players towards their last line. So that were the situations we expected to have already in the first half. It was clear that they go for us, but if you press like them, then you open up other spaces. So it was clear if we win 1-1 situations in that moment, we have an advantage. So that's how it is. But it's more than that you can really get yourself in that mood to do that. Because if the first shot is a goal for yourself, then you all start flying in that moment. If you concede a goal, it's very often exactly the opposite. And that's what happened to us. So we had to force ourselves back in the game, but the boys did that.
Thoughts, Kenny?
Yeah, a little bit difficult following that. It's just a bit of a language thing there in terms of exactly how he was kind of breaking it down. I think just simply put, Liverpool weren't quite at the first half. Give Villarreal a bit of credit, up the intensity levels, got the crowd involved. Didn't really surprise me. I've been surprised if they hadn't have in that first half, and just kind of disrupted Liverpool a little bit. I think they felt as if they needed to just get under the skin of some of their Liverpool players. You saw a little bit of a Lo Celso and Coquelin throwing themselves to the ground, and they got themselves in a good position 2-0. But I'll be honest with you, I wasn't actually worried for Liverpool even at 2-0. I just felt as if, they just need to get a little bit of clarity, kind of second half, back to basics a little bit. I think that's what Klopp was saying in terms of better care with your passing. Those first 2 passes, when they go and press you, take a little bit better care with your pass, a bit more intensity in terms of the press, etc., and just stay calm. I thought Villarreal's only chance was at 2-0, and the game was, you could say, was in the balance. Like I said, I wasn't particularly worried, but you felt maybe a red card at that time. You just sensed maybe something might happen. There might be a reaction, a flying arm, something like that. They were, Coquelin, was exaggerating every kind of contact. At 2-0, Liverpool lose a player, then maybe you're in serious trouble. But didn't surprise me when they kind of found that bit of assurance to their play. Second half, they kind of went away from them.
No. Kenny Cunningham with us all evening. Ken Doherty's on the way this hour. Kenny, Dennis Wise.
I see I missed the boat there. It's too late. We're not going back to that.
You followed Dennis Wise into the Chelsea dressing room. All hell broke loose.
Yeah, it's jersey. Yeah, it's a jersey swap, just like
Gianluca Vialli ended up with a black eye.
Not for me, didn't.
Was John Hartson in after you?
John Hartson was in there behind me. John and then Mickey McHarford had me back, to be fair, so...
Good God.
I wasn't that brave. Rich.
Good God. That's like bringing the Twin Towers in with you.
Yeah, I checked to see who my wingmen were before I headed in the door.
You rolled up your sleeves then, did you?
And I was heading after the smallest player in the Chelsea dressing room, to be fair, let's be honest.
Dennis Wise. Oh dear. I'm reading here about this incident. Was it so wedged that nobody could throw a proper punch?
It was quite funny, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was, in the end, it was like a bit of a comedy sketch, because the corridor into there, you opened the door to go into their dressing room, and by the time you reached the dressing room, I'd say it was about maybe 10 foot, 15 foot long, the corridor, but literally only about, what are we talking, 4 foot wide.
John Hartson.
So you get about 6. There was more than 3 or 4 people in there. There must have been about maybe 16, 20 players at the end of it, but literally nobody could swing. At the end of it, apart from the headbutt which landed on Gianluca Vialli's cheekbone. But I think he did an interview after the game. I think there's an interview after the game, and he's got a bit of a shiner on his face, like. But
so you improvised and threw the headbutt?
I know that wouldn't have been.
That's not your style. Not your style.
To be honest with you, I'm a bit embarrassed by the whole thing. It was a bit embarrassing, like, but it's just in the moment, one of those things. We were struggling. It was a big game for us, and like flirting with relegation. We got our noses in front. Looks like we're going to take something. Conceded late goals. You know. Dennis would have been one. You know.
No, I don't.
Well, he was wind up merchant. Well, plenty of vocals on the pitch as well. So all of that's bubbling, isn't it? When you're heading off the pitch, all of those things are going around in your head. So yeah.
You walk in and saw Dennis up the tunnel. Is that basically what happened?
That's it. I don't need to go into any more detail, but like I said, it was a little bit out of character. Generally, something which wouldn't have affected me, but that particular day, it was kind of head was spinning. Yeah, there was a few things going on, a few things said, so that was it. Yeah.
Would you ever use verbals like Thierry? You're nothing.
No,
you're nothing, Thierry.
No. Well, that would have been stupid. No, I wasn't that stupid. It would have been the opposite, actually, if anything. No, I never got involved in too much of the with the variables, in all honesty. Felt maybe a little bit of a sign of weakness from my point. If I did, I always felt as if I kind of kept away from that type of thing, probably sent a better message, like, you know what I mean, in terms of opposition players. If they felt as if they could get, if you bit a little bit and gave a bit back, then you were kind of playing their game a little bit. So yeah, I always would have kind of stayed away from that type of thing.
So if someone has a nibble at you in passive I
wouldn't have maybe ignored him, but wouldn't have got involved. Would have got the opposite, maybe, crack the joke or whatever, like, you know what I mean. But wouldn't have to give that impression, right? He's got under me skin here. I've got him where I want him, type of thing. There was a few of those around. Bellamy was probably probably the worst of them. Constant talk for the. He really. I found him quite funny. He was a lovely player, to be honest. He was a fantastic.
Wasn't
player.
he just?
Oh, he's
little bit underrated.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Injuries as well, kind of held him back. But it's top. When at his best, yeah, really good player. But he was constant.
Did you like playing a high line against Bellamy? You did.
Well, the problem in those days, we had keepers like who wouldn't leave their 6-yard box, let alone their 18-yard box. So if we had a few of the sweeper keepers back then, maybe I'd have been more inclined to keep that high line. But no, it was always a case of maybe if in doubt, drop it. You know what I'm saying, Joe. Let him have it to his feet. That recovering midfielder, I was lucky. Well, playing for Orlando, I was very lucky. The likes of Roy do that job for you, Mark Kinsler and Matt, and all of them. All you had to worry about was the ball in behind. Anything in front, they'd be kind of ratting off the front. So I got spoiled there a little.
So what's a flavour of Bellamy talk?
No, I wouldn't. I couldn't remember. No, listen. No, it would be the case of how bad are you? How are you earning a living? From this game? It would be along those lines.
He wasn't even being rhetorical.
That's the way it was. Even back then, it would have been very. The old. It's cringe from now. I would never got involved. No, how much? Sorry, how much you? It was the big money thing then, wasn't it, back then? But he would have been like, I didn't realise how bad you were. I knew you were bad, but I didn't realise how bad you were. Which I found quite funny. I mean, I'd laugh at that. I'd be like, you're right. I'm worse than you think.
And he'd have a bit of a smile back, I'd say.
He might know, but he might do, to be honest with you. He might, but that was his thing. I think he probably used it himself as something he maybe needed to get the best out of himself in some respects, like, you know what I mean. But it's funny to watch with this. You see plenty of players bite on it and stuff like that, and it did have an effect. I remember speaking to one of my teammates once, say, don't get too affected by him or his ilk, you know, kind of. If that's how it affects you, you know, red mist, and it affects your decision making, then you're going to go and kick him in. All of this type of thing, I said, is, you know, he's kind of winning, like trying to detach himself a little bit from it. So yeah, I found that easy, to be honest. But yeah, good characters.
Rich, last story or two. So Munster, this has been talked about for months. They finally have sealed the deal with Mr. Mike Prendergast.
He's been on their coaching ticket for next season, and indeed the next 3 seasons. The former Munster scrum half will be attack coach under new head coach Graham Rowntree. Prendergast has forged a successful coaching career in France over the last decade, working most recently with Racing and also with Stade Francais, Oyonnax and Grenoble. Dennis Leamy is poised to join as defence coach from Leinster. And a row over an unsigned review into Ireland's performance at the Tokyo Olympics has led to the resignation of Bernard Dunn. The IABA's high performance director claimed last November that his position had been undermined by the SWOT analysis position paper, as it was called. Dunn's departure means he's the third high performance director to leave the IABA since Billy Walsh's departure in 2016. This evening, the IABA have asked that Dunn reverse his decision to resign, calling the paper in question malicious and an appalling attack on his character.
So once unfortunate, twice careless. I'm not sure what losing a third high performance director in 6 years is. I found this story quite difficult to follow, Rich, over the last while from when it first broke. We'll do a piece on it maybe, but this is, you know, dreadful. And the IABA are asking him to come back, so clearly they value him and want him back, and he's walking away.
But what jumped out at me from that statement this evening was that this first came to light, as they pointed out, in the autumn of last year, and Dunn had made his first complaint about it to the IABA in October, and they said they had their initial hearing about it only at the end of last month. So what, like 2 weeks ago? This is 6 months in between where this has been floating around in the firmament, and Dunn has been on extended leave. Like, you would think that if they're going to get an initial hearing down, it would have been before Christmas. So I don't think their handling of it necessarily has been perhaps what it should have been, and Dunn has probably felt like he has had no other opportunity but to walk away from it all.
Yeah, because I do remember back in November, the then Irish sports CEO John Tracy was before an Oireachtas committee, and he just said the IABA needs to just get their act together. We can't keep having stories coming out and resignations and talk of civil war, not least when the sport is so successful in so many ways. So we'll do a piece on it, but it just seems to be one thing after another at the moment. We are out of time. Richie, thank you.
Nice one, lads.
Cheers, Rich.